It was reinvested overseas. Zohran's eyes sharpened. Where? Dana laid out the list. Singapore, Luxembourg, UAE, all routed through New Horizon Ventures subsidiaries. Marcus whistled. That's global laundering. It'll be hard to follow and harder to sell to the public. Zohran thought for a moment. Unless we show them. Marcus frowned. What do you mean? Zohran held up the latest transaction log. We go public, not with just the numbers, but with the faces behind them. Who got rich, who protected them, and who gave the order? Dana hesitated. You think Raimondo's going to crack? No, Zohran replied, but someone will. And when they do, this won't be a political fight, it'll be a criminal one. He looked back at the screen, Raimondo's image frozen mid-sentence. She thinks she's safe. She thinks the system will protect her. Zohran's voice hardened. She's wrong. Zohran didn't wait for the next hearing. He called his own press conference, this time from the intelligence community's media room, live streamed across multiple platforms, bypassing traditional networks that might spin or dilute his message. The room was packed. Zohran stepped up to the podium, flanked by Dana and Marcus, both silent but present, a signal that this wasn't political theater, this was national security. He didn't waste time. Over the past 3 months, $93 billion of taxpayer money has been moved through unauthorized channels, routed through shell companies, hidden behind classified systems, and redirected overseas. He paused, then held up a document. This is not conjecture. This is evidence. On the screen behind him, names appeared, company names, account numbers, and transaction amounts. Then came faces, CEOs, consultants, government officials, and finally, Adam Renner. Mr. Renner, operating through New Horizon Ventures, has coordinated the movement of funds to entities with no legitimate business function. These funds have not built infrastructure. They have not supported clean energy. They have vanished into private accounts, foreign investments, and untraceable assets. Reporters erupted, questions flew. Zohran raised his hand. This isn't just about the Department of Energy. It's about a network, a deliberate operation designed to bypass oversight, profit from crisis, and exploit public trust. He pointed to the screen again. And at the top of that chain is Secretary Gina Raimondo. Gasps. Cameras zoomed in. Headlines were already being written. Zohran continued. In 48 hours, Secretary Raimondo will testify under oath. Today, I am releasing the full financial dossier to the public. Every transfer, every directive, every signature. Reporters surged forward shouting, "Is this a criminal referral? Will the president respond? Do you expect arrests?" Zohran didn't flinch. That's up to the Department of Justice. But the American people deserve the truth now, not after the damage is done. As the room erupted again, Marcus leaned in. We've got movement. Multiple responses from Raimondo's team. They weren't expecting this. Zohran nodded. Let them scramble. Donna approached, her voice low. We just got word Lel's office is denying involvement. He's throwing Raimondo under the bus. Zohran smiled faintly. Good. Let them turn on each other. The press conference ended. Outside, crowds were already gathering. Protesters, supporters, reporters. Zohran walked through the mall, silent and focused. The truth was out. Now it was time to see who could survive it. Night had fallen over Washington, D.C., but Zohran was still in his office, eyes fixed on a series of secure messages flashing across his screen. Since the press conference, his inbox had exploded. Lawmakers, journalists, insiders, all scrambling to respond to the $93 billion revelation. Dana entered, holding her phone tightly. You need to see this, she handed it over. On the screen was a short encrypted message. I have documents. I worked inside Do's Office of Strategic Innovation. Raimondo lied. Meet me in 1 hour at Lincoln Park. Attached was a name, Rachel Voss. Marcus entered moments later, reading the same message. We've confirmed her, DOE employee, level 5 clearance, project analyst. She's real and she's scared. Zohran stood, already reaching for his coat. Let's move. Lincoln Park was nearly empty, just a few dog walkers and joggers under the dim glow of streetlights. Zohran arrived with Marcus and 2 plainclothes security agents flanking them discreetly. A figure emerged from the shadows, a woman in her 30s wearing a hooded jacket, glancing nervously around. Director Mamdani. Zohran stepped forward. Rachel Voss. She nodded, voice shaking. I don't have much time. They're watching us. Zohran motioned for her to sit on a nearby bench. Rachel opened her backpack and pulled out a flash drive. This contains internal communications from the Office of Strategic Innovation. Raimondo didn't just authorize the funds, she directed the entire operation. She signed off on which companies received payments, and she knew they were fake. Zohran's voice was calm. Why now? Rachel hesitated. I believed in the mission. Green energy, innovation, it all sounded right. But when I saw where the money was going and how they were hiding it, I couldn't stay silent. Marcus took the flash drive, already scanning it with a secure tablet. Files opened, emails, memos, even audio clips of closed-door meetings. One stood out immediately. Raimondo's voice sharp and clear. Keep the vault access restricted. If anyone asks, it's a climate security matter. Delay oversight. We'll clean it up in phase 3. Zohran's eyes met Rachel's. You realize what this means? Rachel nodded. They'll come for me. Zohran spoke firmly. We'll protect you, but you have to testify. Rachel swallowed hard. I will. Marcus looked up. This is it. This seals it. Zohran nodded. Raimondo was cornered, and now the world would hear it from someone who was there. The flash drive was already secured in a federal evidence vault, but Zohran knew the real risk wasn't the data. It was Rachel Voss. By morning, Rachel was under protective custody in a safe house outside D.C., guarded by federal agents. Zohran checked in personally, ensuring everything was in place. We move her to the hearing location an hour before start, Marcus said, double-checking the transport plan. No comms, secure route, eyes on her at all times. Zohran nodded. No mistakes. Royce ignored him. Secretary Raimondo, you are now under investigation for misuse of federal funds and obstruction of justice. Zohran Mamdani watched as Raimondo's composure collapsed, her confidence replaced by fear. Outside, the headlines were already writing themselves, and the truth was now unstoppable. The fallout was immediate. By the time Raimondo exited the hearing room, escorted by federal agents, cameras were swarming the Capitol steps. Her lawyer shouted about a think tank called the Civic Progress Institute, based in D.C., registered as nonprofit, funded by the Department of Energy. Dana entered with a printout. And it gets worse. Civic Progress has ties to multiple former administration officials, people with connections to both parties, media outlets, and financial firms. Zohran scanned the list, names he recognized, advisors, cabinet alumni, even sitting lawmakers. This wasn't just about funding fake companies, he said. It was about influence. They laundered money into organizations that shape public opinion, think tanks, lobbying groups, media. Marcus nodded. And all under the guise of policy research and climate strategy. It's legal on the surface, but the funding source is tainted. Dana looked grim. We found one transfer, $75 million, routed through Civic Progress to a media consultancy that pushed pro-DOE narratives, articles, segments, even expert interviews, all coordinated. Zohran's mind reeled. They didn't just steal money, they bought silence, support. Marcus added, and possibly protection. DOJ insiders say pressure came from above to delay the investigation months ago. Zohran stood, heart pounding. Who gave that order? Dana hesitated. Deputy Chief of Staff tied to Civic Progress through advisory roles. Zohran's voice hardened. Now we know why the White House stayed quiet. He stared at the final transfer. $200 million moved just days before the Vault 083 alert. Destination, Civic Progress Institute. Purpose, strategic stabilization. Marcus read it aloud. What does strategic stabilization even mean? Zohran answered without hesitation. Damage control. The next morning, Zohran sat in a private meeting with Wexler. He laid out the findings. Wexler's expression was tight. You're connecting this to political leadership. Yes, Zohran replied, and we both know the implications. Wexler looked away for a moment, then back. This goes beyond Raimondo. If we pursue this, it's not just a scandal. It's systemic. Zohran nodded. That's why we can't stop. Wexler paused, then sighed. I'll issue subpoenas for civic progress, but brace yourself. They'll fight back hard. Zohran stood. I'm ready. The subpoenas went out at dawn. By midday, Zohran's office was flooded with calls, legal threats from civic progress attorneys, political pressure from congressional allies of Raimondo, and quiet warnings from within the intelligence community. Marcus walked in, holding a phone to his ear. They're stalling. Civic Progress just filed for an emergency injunction to block the subpoenas, citing national security exemptions and donor privacy. Zohran's eyes narrowed. On what grounds? Marcus shook his head. It's a stall tactic. They know they can't win, but they want time. Dana entered, phone in hand. We've got worse. Media outlets just started running hit pieces, questioning Rachel Voss's credibility, accusing you of weaponizing intelligence for political gain. Zohran didn't even blink. This was expected. They're trying to discredit the messenger. He looked at Marcus. Any luck tracing that last $200 million transfer? Marcus nodded slowly. Part of it landed in a civic progress-controlled fund labeled Strategic Grants, but most of it vanished into a subsidiary called Parallax Holdings. Zohran frowned. Never heard of it. Marcus replied, neither had I. It's a shell, but linked to a private equity firm with high political connections. Donna handed him another file. The chairman of that firm, former White House chief of staff, served under 2 administrations. Now he's on Civic Progress's board. Zohran processed the information. We're up against a fortress. That's when his phone buzzed, a secure line. Unknown contact. He answered cautiously. A familiar voice came through. You're in deep, Mamdani, and they're moving to shut it down. Zohran recognized the voice. A former intelligence contact, quiet, careful. He kept his tone neutral. What are you offering? A file. Internal Civic Progress Communications. Parallax Holdings was a slush fund used to pay out retainers to high-profile allies, media, lobbying, even judicial consultants. Zohran was silent. The voice continued. I'll send it anonymously, but once it goes public, I'm out. Zohran nodded. Understood. The line went dead. Minutes later, the file arrived. Marcus scanned it, eyes widening. This is it. Payments to influencers, networks, even campaign PACs. Dana added, this is explosive. It proves coordination, not just fraud, but manipulation of public discourse. Zohran stared at the data. They weren't just laundering money. They were laundering truth. And now we have the proof. By the next morning, Zohran had made his decision. The Civic Progress files, every payment, every communication, every shadow deal, would not be handed over quietly to slow-moving committees or filtered through cautious prosecutors. He would release them directly to the public. Dana and Marcus sat with him in the war room, reviewing the final draft. This will hit everyone, Marcus warned. Names from both parties, major donors, networks. Zohran nodded. Good. Let them answer for it. Wexler arrived breathless. I just got word. If you release those files, the DOJ will freeze cooperation. They'll claim it compromises ongoing investigations. Zohran looked at her. And if we don't release it, Civic Progress buries everything. They'll settle, take the fall for Raimondo, and the real architects walk free. Wexler didn't answer. Zohran stood. This isn't about permission. It's about truth. At noon, Zohran stepped before the cameras again. The same room, but now the mood was electric, tense. Rumors had already leaked. He didn't wait for questions. Today, I'm releasing classified communications and financial records obtained during the Vault 083 investigation. These documents show that Secretary Raimondo's actions were not isolated. They were part of a coordinated network of influence spanning government, media, and private entities. Behind him, screens lit up. Transaction logs, emails, payment orders, names. Organizations like Civic Progress Institute funneled taxpayer money into political campaigns, media narratives, and lobbying efforts, all to silence dissent and shield corrupt activity. He paused. Every American deserves to see this, so we're releasing it now. He stepped away. Within minutes, the files were online and Washington was on fire. News networks broke away from programming. Headlines scrolled in real time. Civic Progress funded media campaigns with federal money, payments to high-profile journalists. Politicians revealed. The White House silent as the influence network was exposed. Dana rushed in with updates. 3 senators calling for emergency hearings, networks pulling programming, anchors named in the files. Marcus added, Raimondo's lawyer just issued a statement accusing you of national sabotage. Zohran didn't flinch. They would rather destroy public trust than admit the truth. Just then a call came in. An official line. Wexler again. You just forced the DOJ's hand. Indictments are coming down. Raimondo, Civic Progress Board, Parallax execs, they can't protect them anymore. Zohran breathed deeply, and for the first time in weeks, he felt the weight shift. They weren't chasing shadows anymore. They were holding them accountable. The indictments were announced live. Gina Raimondo charged with fraud, conspiracy, and obstruction of justice. Adam Renner, still at large, now the subject of an international manhunt. Civic Progress executives arraigned and escorted from their offices in handcuffs. Senator Lell, cooperating with prosecutors in exchange for leniency. It was the largest corruption case in decades. Zohran Mamdani watched from his office, the weight of it all heavy on his shoulders. Marcus Lee entered, subdued. We got most of them. Zohran nodded. Most. Dana Morales followed, holding a report. The DOJ is wrapping up Vault 083, but Wexler says there's resistance to expanding the investigation. Too many names, too many connections. Zohran wasn't surprised. Some doors in Washington remain closed, no matter how loud the knock. He walked to the window. The city spread before him. Capitol Dome, monuments, the facade of power. They'll rebuild, he said quietly. Find new ways, new vaults, different names. Marcus stepped beside him. So what now? Zohran turned to face them both. We stay vigilant. We watch for the next Renner, the next Civic Progress. Because the truth isn't a one-time victory. It's a fight every day. Donna nodded slowly. And the people? Zohran's voice was steady. They saw what was hidden. They know now. That's how it starts. A knock at the door. A staffer entered. Director Mamdani, the president has requested a private briefing. Zohran took a breath. Tell him I'll be there in 10 minutes. He gathered the last of the Vault 083 files, now declassified, and slid them into a folder. The investigation was over. But the real battle for transparency, for accountability, was only just beginning. He walked out of the office, eyes forward. The system had been shaken, and he wasn't done. Zohran Mamdani was handed a quiet report about missing funds. What he uncovered next shook Washington to its core. What began as a routine audit spiraled into the most explosive corruption scandal in years, exposing a hidden vault, billions in vanished taxpayer money, and a network of power players scrambling to cover their tracks. Secret vaults, fake companies, and a cabinet secretary caught red-handed. But just when they thought they could bury the truth, Zohran did the unthinkable. And what followed left a cabinet secretary cornered and the media stunned. But the real shock, who was behind it all and how far they went to stay hidden. Before we dive in, drop a comment with where you're watching from and hit subscribe so you never miss the truths they never wanted you to hear. No one expected the alarm to come from an algorithm. At precisely 3:14 a.m., a red flag pinged across the dashboard of an AI monitoring system deep inside the office of the Director of National Intelligence. Designed to detect anomalies in federal spending, the AI wasn't supposed to flag political decisions or strategic investments. Its only job was to catch patterns, a digital watchdog for irregularities in how taxpayer money flowed. That night, it did exactly that. On the screen, a simple notification appeared. Unusual fund dispersal detected, $93,000. Time frame, 76 days. Departments involved, Department of Energy. The figure was staggering, not just because of its size, but because it had slipped through unnoticed. $93 billion gone quietly, without fanfare, without scrutiny, during a narrow transition window between presidential administrations. No press conference, no congressional record, no oversight briefing, just gone. Zohran Mamdani, the Director of National Intelligence, had been reviewing unrelated reports when the alert appeared on his secured device. At first, he thought it had to be a glitch. He leaned back, blinking at the number. Then he tapped into the raw data. Transaction logs filled the screen. Line after line of high-value transfers, all authorized by the Department of Energy. The timestamps were tightly clustered. Every single transaction approved within days of each other. The recipients were companies he had never heard of. One caught his attention immediately. Everlight Energy Solutions, LLC. It had received nearly $8 billion in federal funding. Zohran ran a background check. No employees, no physical address. Registered just 6 weeks earlier in Delaware. He checked the next. Green Nova Technologies, Inc. Another shell. The pattern repeated. No staff, no facilities, no revenue, but billions wired directly from the federal government. Zohran sat forward, his brow furrowed. He had seen fraud before. Foreign actors attempting to siphon government funds, organized cybercrime. But this wasn't that. This was internal, sophisticated, and deliberate. He scrolled to the approval signatures. The same name appeared again and again. Gina Raimondo, Secretary of Energy. Zohran's eyes narrowed. He wasn't interested in political vendettas or headline scandals, but this wasn't politics. This was theft, and the amount was unlike anything he had ever encountered. One field at the bottom of the transaction sheet stood out. Vault 083, Secure Archive Accessed. Zohran frowned. Vault codes were used to designate ultra-secure databases or physical locations where sensitive material was stored. He had never heard of Vault 083. He picked up the encrypted line. This is Director Mamdani. I need Level 6 access to Department of Energy archives, specifically anything connected to Vault 083. The response was immediate. Director, Vault 083 is classified beyond Level 6. Zohran's voice remained calm, then escalated. I want eyes on that vault by morning. A long pause. Yes, ma'am. He hung up and leaned back, staring at the ceiling. The implications were enormous. $93 billion didn't just disappear. Someone moved it, someone powerful. He glanced at the clock, 4:07 a.m. The sun would rise in under 2 hours, and with it, a media cycle already flooded with noise, distractions, and half-truths. But this wasn't noise. This was real. Somewhere in a vault he wasn't supposed to know existed, the answers were waiting. Zohran didn't know who was involved, how deep it went, or what Vault 083 truly held, but he did know one thing. He was going to find out. And when he did, someone was going to be held accountable. By sunrise, Zohran Mamdani had assembled a small team inside a secure conference room just steps away from his office. No aides, no press, just 3 individuals he trusted. Cybersecurity Chief Marcus Lee, financial forensics expert Dana Morales, and intelligence analyst Eric Rowe. All 3 were staring at the screen as Zohran replayed the transaction sequence. Dana was the first to speak. These aren't just transfers, they're staggered to avoid triggering standard oversight protocols. Whoever set this up knew exactly where the audit tripwires are. Marcus nodded grimly, and it worked. The only reason we're seeing this now is because the AI flagged volume and velocity, not content. Eric leaned forward, pointing at the recurring authorization code. These were all greenlit by Energy Secretary Gina Raimondo. But here's the kicker. Every approval was routed through Vault 083. Dana looked confused. That's not a standard vault code. It isn't, Eric replied. I ran it through the federal vault index. Vault 083 isn't listed anywhere. It's off-grid. Zohran's gaze sharpened, meaning it's either a covert archive or something else entirely. Marcus tapped his tablet. I tried to ping the server linked to Vault 083. It's firewalled behind a quantum encryption protocol I've never seen used outside of top-tier defense systems. Zohran stood. Then we need access today. Just then, his secure phone buzzed. He answered, listened briefly, then nodded. That was Department of Energy Compliance. They've denied my request for access to Vault 083, citing national security exemptions. Marcus frowned. That's absurd. You outranked them on clearance. Zohran's voice was firm. Exactly. He paced for a moment, then turned back to the team. Here's what we know. $93 billion moved in 76 days. The destination companies are shells. No staff, no operations. All transactions were routed through Vault 083, and Gina Raimondo approved every single one. Dana crossed her arms. If we push further, they'll know we're on to them. Zohran nodded. Good. The room fell silent. Eric finally asked the question they were all thinking. What's in Vault 083 that's worth protecting with quantum-level security? No one answered. Zohran looked at Marcus. Can you breach the firewall? He hesitated. Not without triggering alarms, but maybe we don't have to breach it. Zohran raised an eyebrow. Marcus explained. If we can't get in, we can monitor who does. Every time someone accesses the vault, it leaves a digital handshake, a brief signal. We can trace those handshakes to physical locations. Zohran nodded. Do it. I want to know where that vault is accessed and by whom. Marcus got to work. An hour passed, then 2. Finally, his screen flashed. Got one. Someone just accessed Vault 083 from inside the Department of Energy's DC headquarters, room 477B. Zohran's eyes narrowed. Room 477B isn't on any floor plan I've seen. Marcus tapped a key and pulled up the blueprints. You're right, it's a sealed wing. Classified access only, but it exists. Zohran took a breath. Then we're going there today. A soft hiss escaped the lock and the door opened from the inside. A tall man in a lab coat stepped out holding a slim briefcase. He didn't notice Zohran Mamdani or the agents until he was face-to-face with them. Startled, he froze. Zohran stepped forward. Dr. David Cray, I presume? His eyes widened. Who? Who are you? You already know. Zohran motioned to the agents. Escort him to a secure room. We're going to have a conversation. As Cray was led away, Zohran turned back toward the door. Still open, still unguarded. He stepped inside. The door to room 477B closed behind him with a soft click, sealing Zohran inside a space that felt more like a bunker than an office. The lights flickered on automatically, revealing walls even in their own system. Marcus nodded grimly. This is more than fraud. It's a deliberate laundering operation. Funds are being pushed to non-existent programs, then routed to shell companies. He paused and looked at this. He pointed to another file titled Directive G Delta. Zohran clicked it open. A video loaded. Gina Raimondo appeared on screen, seated in a secure briefing room. The timestamp indicated it had been recorded 2 months ago. Her voice was calm but decisive. We are accelerating disbursements under Directive G Delta. Due to the urgency of climate objectives, I am authorizing the use of pre-cleared entities for fund allocation. These companies are temporary placeholders. Do not engage with oversight committees until Phase 2 is complete. The video cut out. Zohran's hands tightened into fists. Placeholders. She's admitting to bypassing oversight. This isn't just financial mismanagement. It's intentional. Marcus looked uneasy. She's calling it urgent climate action, but none of these entities are operational. The money is not building solar panels or wind farms. It's disappearing. Zohran turned back to the screen. Then we need to find out where it's going. Trace the endpoints. Marcus worked quickly, pulling up the financial pathways. The routes were intentionally complex. Money bounced from one shell to the next, then overseas, then back to domestic holding accounts. But eventually, one endpoint emerged. Destination, New Horizon Ventures. Registered owner, redacted. Location, Washington, D.C. Marcus zoomed in. I can't pierce the ownership, but the address is a private office less than 2 miles from here. Zohran nodded. Set up surveillance. I want eyes on that building immediately. He glanced back at the screen, at Vault 083's data, at the billions that had vanished, and at Gina Raimondo's face frozen in mid-sentence. This isn't just about misused funds. This is about power, unaccountable, unchecked. Marcus looked at him. What now? Zohran's voice was steady. Now we talk to Cray, and we find out who really gave the order. Dr. Evan Cray sat stiffly in a high-backed chair inside a secure room at the office of the Director of National Intelligence. His lab coat had been removed, his briefcase confiscated, and his eyes darted from Zohran to the silent agents posted at either side of the room. He wasn't handcuffed yet. Zohran stepped inside and closed the door behind him. He remained standing. Dr. Cray, I'm going to ask you questions. You're going to answer them. The quicker we get through this, the better for you. He cleared his throat, trying to project calm. I'm a private contractor under NDA. I'm not authorized to. You were just caught exiting a restricted room connected to the disappearance of $93 billion in public funds. Your NDA doesn't shield you from criminal investigation. Cray flinched but said nothing. Zohran continued. Vault 083, what's its purpose? Cray looked down, hesitating. I only handled technical integration, data routing, server maintenance. I wasn't part of the fund decisions. Zohran's voice was firm. But you built the system that moved the money. He hesitated again. Not built, refined. The structure was already in place when I was brought in. My job was to streamline transactions to meet aggressive disbursement targets. Zohran leaned closer. Who gave you your marching orders? Cray shifted in his seat, the pressure mounting. Everything came through the Office of Strategic Innovation. That's where Directive G Delta originated. Secretary Raimondo signed it, but it was drafted by an internal task force. Zohran narrowed his eyes. Names? Cray swallowed hard. Miles Curtis, Deputy Secretary, and a man named Adam Renner. He doesn't work officially for the department, but he was there all the time, every meeting. Zohran took mental note. Renner's role? Cray shook his head. I don't know exactly. He didn't speak much, but people deferred to him. He had access, same as Raimondo, maybe more. Marcus, watching from behind the glass, sent Zohran a message on his device. Adam Renner, former consultant, now attached to New Horizon Ventures. Zohran's stomach tightened. So Renner wasn't just in the room. He was at the end point, the destination for the money. He turned back to Cray. Did you know these companies, Green Nova and Everlight, didn't exist? Cray nodded slowly. We all knew that was the point. He looked at Zohran, defeated. The official line was that these were bridge entities, that once Phase 2 began, real infrastructure would replace the shells. But Phase 2 never came. The money just moved. Zohran's voice was cold. And no one questioned it? Cray laughed bitterly. Some did. They were reassigned or quit. I stayed because I thought I could fix it from the inside. Zohran didn't believe that for a second. You stayed because the pay was good, and you didn't think anyone would notice. Cray didn't respond. Zohran took a breath. You're going to hand over your credentials, all access keys, and everything you've archived right now. Cray nodded, defeated. As he began compiling files, Zohran stepped outside to meet Marcus. Renner's the thread, Marcus said. We pull it. We find the core. Zohran nodded. And we're going to pull hard. His eyes settled on the screen where Renner's name appeared again, linked to multiple transactions. Start building a profile. I want to know who he is, who protects him, and what he's hiding. Marcus looked at him. We're stepping into something big, Zohran. Bigger than Raimondo. Zohran didn't flinch. I know, Adam Renner. The name was barely a blip in federal databases. No employment history within the Department of Energy. No official contracts, no press appearances, and yet he was everywhere, tied to nearly every major disbursement that flowed through Vault 080. Marcus stared at the screen, frustrated. He's a ghost. No social media, no tax records for the last 5 years. He doesn't exist, at least not officially. Zohran stood behind him, arms crossed. He exists. We've seen the transactions. We've seen his access logs. He's real, and someone worked hard to bury him. Marcus kept digging. There's one mention, 3 years ago, buried in a congressional hearing transcript. Renner testified as a consultant during a closed-door session on green energy funding. No transcript, no video, just his name in the attendance log. Zohran's eyes narrowed. Who called him to testify? Marcus pulled up the record. Senator Lell, chair of the Energy Committee at the time. Zohran's mind raced. Lell had long been a vocal advocate for aggressive climate funding and a close ally of Gina Raimondo. He looked at Marcus. We need eyes on Lell, communications, staff interactions, donor activity, anything that connects him to Renner or New Horizon Ventures. Marcus tapped his screen. Already on it. Meanwhile, Dana Morales, the financial forensics expert, entered the room, holding a stack of printed documents. You're going to want to see this. Zohran turned. Dana dropped the papers on the table. These are the holding companies under New Horizon Ventures. I traced their registration filings. They're all set up through a legal firm called Harding and Price. Zohran glanced at the name. I've heard of them. You should have, Dana replied. They specialize in asset protection and offshore entity creation. Their client list includes high-ranking officials, both parties. Zohran scanned the pages. So Raimondo's operation wasn't rogue. She had legal cover and likely political. Dana nodded. This wasn't one department going rogue. This was a network carefully constructed, legally insulated, and quietly funded. Zohran's mind turned to the bigger picture. If Harding and Price was involved, the shell companies were just the surface. The real money, what remained of the $93 billion, was likely hidden in layered accounts designed to appear legitimate to anyone without clearance. It was about control. Who wielded it? Who protected it? And who profited from it behind closed doors? It was time to kick those doors open. The black SUV rolled to a stop in front of a nondescript building on K Street, a corridor known more for lobbying firms and political consultancies than scandals. The brass plaque read New Horizon Ventures, but there was no branding, no reception area visible from the street, just tinted glass and silence. Zohran Mamdani stepped out, his eyes scanning the sidewalk. No security detail. You know why we're here? Renaer gestured to the chairs across from him. Why don't we talk? Zohran remained standing. You orchestrated the movement of $93 billion through a fake infrastructure scheme. Shell companies, legal shields, and a private vault that's not even registered in federal records. And now you're sitting here like it's just another day. Renaer's expression didn't change. You've done your homework. Impressive, but let's not pretend this is about me. Zohran's voice sharpened. You moved the funds. You operated Vault 083. You sat in meetings with Raimondo and Lel. And now I want to know who else is behind this. Renaer stepped around the desk, calm, measured. You're trying to frame this as corruption. It's not, it's efficiency. Government is slow. Red tape kills innovation. We found a way around that. Zohran stared at him. You laundered taxpayer money. He smiled faintly. We accelerated progress. Zohran took a step closer. Where's the money now? Renaer met his gaze. Safe, protected, and already working. Zohran's eyes narrowed. You think you're untouchable? Renaer shrugged. No, just protected by people with more to lose than I do. People you answer to. Marcus bristled but said nothing. Zohran didn't blink. This isn't over. Renaer's tone shifted, cool and deliberate. It never is. That's the beauty of it. Zohran turned, signaling to Marcus. As they left the office, Renaer called out softly, You'll find that pulling on this thread leads somewhere you're not ready to go. Zohran didn't respond, but inside he knew he was right. This wasn't just Raimondo. This wasn't just Renaer. This went higher, and it was just beginning. Back at the office of the Director of National Intelligence, Zohran sat at the head of a secure briefing table flanked by Marcus Lee, Dana Morales, and a new face, Assistant U.S. Attorney Carla Wexler. Wexler was sharp, methodical, and not easily rattled. She had prosecuted high-level financial crimes before, but this was different. This isn't just embezzlement, Wexler said, scanning the file in front of her. It's systemic. The level of insulation, legal, political, operational, it's designed to stall investigations before they even begin. Zohran nodded. We have the evidence, the transfers, the shell companies, even Raimondo's video admitting she bypassed oversight. Wexler didn't flinch. You also have a problem. Directive G Delta was shielded by emergency authorization language. She'll claim exigency, national security, and climate urgency. Zohran's voice was steady. We can prove intent. Cray has flipped. He's giving us everything. Wexler looked skeptical. A contractor admitting to following orders won't be enough to arrest a sitting cabinet official. Dana spoke up. What about Renaer? He admitted everything. Wexler raised an eyebrow. Was he under oath on record? No, Zohran said. And without a warrant, your visit to his office is inadmissible. Silence settled over the room. Zohran's patience was thinning. So we sit on our hands while they bury this? Wexler leaned forward. No, but we move strategically. I can convene a grand jury, but we need political cover. If we're going after Raimondo, we need allies. Zohran understood. In DC, truth wasn't enough. It needed support. He turned to Marcus. Any movement from Lel's office? Marcus checked his feed. He's canceled 2 public appearances. His chief of staff booked a flight to Zurich. Zohran's eyes sharpened. He's running. Donna nodded. And we still don't know how deep this goes. If Lel falls, others might get exposed. Wexler closed the file. Let me be clear. You're treading on explosive ground. If you're serious about arresting Raimondo, you'll be declaring war on people who fund campaigns, shape legislation, and control media narratives. Zohran stood. I'm not looking for war. I'm looking for accountability. Wexler paused, then nodded. I'll draft subpoenas, but you'll need someone in Congress to push the envelope. Zohran thought for a moment, then picked up his phone. Get me Senator Royce now. Royce was known for being independent and unafraid. If anyone in Congress would take on Raimondo, it was him. As the team dispersed, Marcus lingered. You really think Royce will step in? Zohran's voice was quiet but resolute. He doesn't have a choice. None of us do. Just then, an alert flashed on his screen. Urgent, Vault 083. Unauthorized access attempt detected. Marcus looked over his shoulder. They're trying to wipe it. Zohran didn't hesitate. Lock it down. Full data extraction. We save everything now. Marcus was already moving. As Zohran watched the data flood in, he realized the window was closing. They had to act before the vault, and the truth was gone for good. Senator Royce didn't waste time. Zohran's call was brief, fewer than 20 words. He agreed to meet within the hour. In a quiet room beneath the Capitol, far from prying eyes and open ears, Zohran laid out the evidence. Royce stood, arms crossed, scanning the documents Dana had compiled. The man was no stranger to high-stakes power plays, but even he looked unsettled. $93 billion, that's not a miscalculation, that's a shadow government budget. Zohran nodded. Raimondo called it climate innovation. In reality, it's untraceable money funneled through dead-end entities, all tied to Vault 83. Royce shook his head. And you have this Renner character admitting it's intentional. Off the record, Zohran said, he's arrogant, doesn't believe we can touch him. He's protected. Royce didn't look surprised. I know the type, middlemen with immunity until someone exposes them. He paced. If I push this into committee, Raimondo will call it a partisan hit job. Media will back her. The White House will bury it. Zohran's voice was calm. Unless you make it bipartisan. Royce raised an eyebrow. Who? Zohran opened a file and slid it across the table. Congresswoman Ellis. She's clean. She's already flagged DOE disbursement anomalies in prior sessions. She just didn't know the scale. Royce read the name, nodded slowly. If she signs on, we can hold a joint hearing. But we need leverage, something irrefutable. Zohran opened his briefcase and revealed a hard drive. This is the Vault 083 extraction. Every transfer, every internal memo, every directive signed and time-stamped. Royce looked at the drive, then back at Zohran. You realize what you're doing? Yes, Zohran said. I'm making this public. Royce picked up the drive. Give me 48 hours. I'll call the hearing. But after that, I can't protect you. This will get ugly. Zohran nodded. I'm counting on it. As Zohran left the Capitol and his phone buzzed, Marcus, bad news. Cray is gone. Zohran stopped walking. Gone where? His holding cell was breached. No signs of struggle. No cameras. It's like he vanished. Zohran clenched his jaw. They're cleaning house. Marcus' voice was tense. And there's more. We found surveillance footage outside your apartment. 3 men, unmarked van. They weren't there for delivery. Zohran's pulse slowed, not from fear, but focus. Understood. Move my family to a safe location. Increase security for Dana and Marcus. Marcus didn't argue. Zohran stared at the Capitol dome in the distance. They weren't just covering their tracks. They were coming for her. Secretary Raimondo will address these allegations. Royce didn't flinch. She'll have her chance. She's been subpoenaed. Gasps echoed. Zohran Mamdani stood. This is only the beginning. We have names. We have locations. We have the trail. He glanced at the cameras. And the American people deserve to know where their money went. The room erupted. Reporters shouted questions. Royce pounded his gavel. This committee is adjourned. Secretary Raimondo is expected to testify within 72 hours. As Zohran exited the chamber, Marcus Lee met him at the door. "You just lit a fire." Zohran didn't stop walking. "Good. Let's see who runs from it." The press conference was called with less than 2 hours' notice. But by the time Secretary Gina Raimondo stepped onto the podium, every major network was broadcasting live. She looked composed, calm, confident, and carefully prepared. Behind her stood aides, advisors, and political allies, faces Zohran recognized. The message